Hi, and welcome to the Why People Buy podcast. It's a podcast about the motivations and buyer psychology of growth in the food and beverage industry. I'm your host, Seth Waite, and I am partner at Schaefer, and this is episode 1. So this is the very beginning of the podcast. We've got a lot of really exciting people that we're talking to this season as we go through these early interviews. And I wanted to start today by just connecting with my business partner, longtime friend, coworker, all the things. We could get into that today, but Sidnee Schaefer. And introduce you to her and really why the Why People Buy podcast exists. So to get started, I'm going to ask Sidnee some lightning round questions to just get her to share her opinion about some of her favorite or maybe least favorite food and beverage. So let's get started. I want to ask you, what is your favorite drink?
Oh, my favorite drink. This is a really tough one because I usually drink water. Water is my drink of choice. But if I had to actually choose one, if I was out to eat and I could choose anything, it's kind of obscure. It's Henry Weinhard's, I think, and I could be pronouncing this wrong, cream soda. That was like my favorite drink as a kid. It's like a creamsicle. I mean, the orange creamsicle is really the best, but it's like a creamsicle in a bottle, and it's just amazing. If you put ice cream in it, I mean, you can have it plain. If I had to choose one drink, it would be that one, but typically I drink water, which is super boring.
Are we talking water like out of the sink or the fridge, or are we talking bottled
water? I had a friend who was introducing me to this app essentially that tests water. This also sounds a little crazy, but I have some really eccentric friends, and so they're like, you need to look and see the quality of the water you're drinking and all this stuff. So I realized the water I was drinking, Sparklets, has really bad ratings, and so I've been on the hunt for good water. So I've been trying Icelandic water. And you can't get the bottled in Las Vegas, so you have to drink the plastic, which is a lower rating. It all tastes the same to me, but it's like one of those things. You know how it goes, Seth. You try food brands all the time, and so now I'm on the hunt for the best tasting water. I really cannot tell the difference, but according to lab testing, it is the best rated water. It doesn't have weird things in it. So I'm trying it. It's kind of expensive for water, honestly.
Yeah. But you're getting the very best. So.
But I'm apparently getting the very best.
That's awesome. And I'll be researching water coming out of this.
I know. I'll send you the app. I didn't tell you about this. So
yeah.
Now we're going to introduce it on the podcast, and people are going to wonder what it's called.
Yeah, that's fun. That's really cool. What is your favorite snack food?
Oh, my favorite snack food. I love pop chips a lot. Yeah. And I love the little popcorners are also my favorite. The caramel corn one is good, and then I like just the regular salted. So it's like a guilty pleasure because I have to just get the little snack size bags, or else if I buy the large one, I'll finish it off while sitting and eating.
The whole thing.
You've seen me eat those things. I sit here and eat those. So those are my favorite snacks, and then I love to snack on chocolate chips as well.
That's great. And kind of going on that theme, so from an indulgence standpoint, favorite dessert?
Oh, favorite dessert. This is a tough one. Cinnamon rolls. Always my favorite. I don't have a brand that I love. I like to bake a lot, so I like to bake things from scratch. So I will look up recipes. I'll try different things. I personally have to eat like a lower gluten diet, so finding a recipe that doesn't turn into a rock is a challenge. I found one though after like 5 tries, and so I really love cinnamon rolls. If I'm out, not the pastry kind. We're talking like the buttery with the cream cheese on top, extra fluffy. When I was a kid,
the real question is raisins or no raisins?
No raisins. No raisins. That's just you're just ruining the heart of the cinnamon roll. Somebody's gonna disagree with me, but it's just it has to be in its like glory without the raisins. Raisins are fine in other things like cinnamon bread.
Yeah.
But cinnamon rolls, it just causes too much confusion, I think.
Yeah. And is your favorite part of the cinnamon roll the outside or the center?
It's actually the bottom. It's the
Okay.
the bottom of it. Like if you have one that is extra buttery, it has like this
Yeah.
crispiness to it.
Hmm.
And so I actually will like the outside the best with the bottom because it
Yeah,
usually soaks up the most butter.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's strategic. I mean, if you really love a
Cinnamon
cinnamon roll,
roll aficionado right here. I didn't
yeah,
realize how deep you went in cinnamon rolls.
you're learning all sorts of things today.
That's true. That's true. So let's do an introduction. Now that we know some food preferences, as part of this, Sydney, if a friend was introducing you, somebody that maybe a friend in the industry, let's put it that way, somebody that knows what you do for work, if a friend was introducing you, how would they do it? What would they say about you?
I think they would say that I will always be a marketer at heart, and I love analytics. I love to dig into the data. It's why Schaefer is based in how it is. We'll talk more about why people buy, I'm sure, in the rest of the podcast. But I love to dig into the data. I love to use data to tell a story. I love performance marketing because the outcome is my favorite, and being able to manipulate that outcome, to get people to their goals. I love that piece of it. And the other part is, before we really got into buyer psychology, it was thinking about the psychology of the buyer pre all of this concept. So
Yeah.
what was it that was going to be the right audience for product? What was the creative that was going to drive people? I like to think about what's going to get us to the end result. And a lot of the time it is centered on buyer psychology, even before we even knew that was the right concept for what we were doing.
Yeah.
But I'd say that would be the case, and I feel like I'm relentless in trying to get to the numbers, and
Yes, yes,
in
you are.
whatever way we have to figure it out. So I'm kind of the person that'll say, we're just going to do it, whatever that is. As you know, Seth, our relationship has always been let's just figure out how we're going to do it.
Yeah, no, that's true. And for reference, Sydney and I have known each other for what, almost a decade at this point.
Yeah, long
Um,
time.
so long time, lots of different work environments. All of them have been
Yeah.
awesome.
Can I ask you, though, if a friend were to introduce you in the industry, what would they say?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think people would say that I'm strategic, so always focus on the big picture, and very opportunistic, able to see doors that maybe other people can't that are open. And I think that's largely defined a lot of the work that I have done, both in teams and like on my own business, or those kind of things at the company that I'm working at, or with clients throughout the years, has been typically that people go, "Where in the world did you come up with that idea?"
Sounds familiar.
And usually it follows with, "And you're so excited by it and so passionate about it that I want to go do it." And that's like that 1-2 punch usually that happens. It's like, I don't know how you discovered this opportunity, but I want to go do it. So I
Yeah,
think
I mean, that
that's
sounds about
generally how
right.
it would work.
Yeah, the way I would usually describe you is, the concepts of sell me a pen. I always tell people that you're so passionate about your ideas that you could convince me that a pen is a rocket ship, and I'd probably believe you.
Yeah, there you go. My favorite component about that sell you a pen story is, so I was incredibly like shy, high school, college, all those kind of things. So quiet that when I graduated senior year, I had kids in my class that came up at the very end of the year and were like, "Do you talk?" So I was like on that kind of component. And I was once at this like conference and I got asked to come up on stage and sell me a pen, like out of the blue. Like I was completely unprepared, all of those kind of things. And I bombed it so badly. I think at one point I just stood there and was like looking at the guy.
Hmm.
He was looking back at me, and the audience was all like, "Is this guy going to say anything?" And I'm not sure that I even said something. And then I think like it felt like an hour. It was probably like 30 seconds.
No.
At the end of the 30 seconds, I just shuffled off stage and went and sat back in my chair. So
Oh my gosh.
there's been a lot of
A
change
lot
in
of
growth.
growth since then, I would say.
100%, yes. So
Yeah. a lot of long nights in front of that mirror with that pen. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but yeah, every time I think of sell me that pen, I actually think of like, holy
Oh,
cow,
the worst.
absolute terror. But that was a long
A
time
long
ago.
time ago, yes. We all grow and mature.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Um,
fine.
so we work together. We have all these experiences, but what's kind of your origin story, Sydney? Like, where do you live? How did you get to the place that you're at from a career wise? Like, if everyone introduces you as a marketer, like, how did that start?
Well, I am in Las Vegas. I was actually born and raised here, as was Seth.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
funny
Very
enough,
rare.
it is very rare. And funny enough, we found out that our brothers were best friends in high school. And
Like a
so
year
that's
into working together.
so random.
Yeah.
But our paths somehow crossed, you know, what, 30 years ago at this point. So, um, but I was born and raised in Las Vegas. I got my MBA, so I went to undergrad in California. I got my MBA in Oregon, and I was still kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And the funny thing is I started off as graphic design in college because
Yeah.
I really like to design things, and so I thought to myself, this is what I should do. I'm going to try it. Well, I'm sitting next to this incredible artist in drawing class, and I looked at my work and I looked at her work, and I thought to myself, this is not going to be a long career. And so, as much as I really wanted to do that, I mean, this was before, you know, that too much Photoshop and Illustrator and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And so I was like, she's going to be unbelievable. And she ended up being an illustrator. She illustrated,
Wow.
you know, like anime and stuff. So
That's cool.
I knew she was going to be successful, but I was like, I have to figure out what I'm going to do. And so I took a marketing class in business school, and it was the first time I got like really excited about something.
Yeah.
And I took international marketing, and that was like really what kind of lit the fire. And I loved it. We did a project, I remember, where it was bringing a new product line into Europe, and it was this whole concept. And so that was what got me into it. And you know, I did an internship at Zappos in brand marketing, and I realized I really liked that. But what I really loved was getting exposure all those years ago to the technical online marketing piece. So that was where I started to realize this is what I wanted to do. And so when I went to MBA school, I interned at Intel as a developer marketing intern. And that was like when, you know, OSs existed that don't exist anymore. That's going to age us all, but we won't get into that. But that kind of got me into social. And so I went kind of along this career path where I got more into online marketing, and then I wanted to come home. I lived in the Northwest for a few years, and I loved it up there, made great friends, had great experiences, but it rained a lot. I'm from Vegas, as you know, and so even as pale as I am, I still like the sun. So it's time, I really want to move back, and I saw Rev Unit advertised on Indeed, and I had multiple interviews with you guys, and I just remember having a 3 hour, and it was a virtual interview, and this was how many years ago? Like 10
Yeah.
years ago. With nobody did virtual interviews, and it was the most excited I'd been about work probably ever, and
Yeah.
it was
We just
working
work
aggressively.
together, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's pretty much what it was.
yeah, it was working together that got me the itch, and you know, I was just learning as much as I possibly could. And somewhere along the line, the opportunity presented itself to start Schaefer, and that was because of you. So we've had an interesting timeline, and were our first client because of
Yeah.
the moving technology business you had started, and that enabled me to start this. And we've grown year over year. It's been phenomenal. But it started as a baby business, and now it's becoming this really mature adult thing, and it's just, yeah. So that was the kind of the long-winded story of how I got into marketing. But I love it. I love it every day, and I really love what we do.
Yeah. And what are some of the highlights? So as you think of career-wise, like
Yeah.
marketing projects you worked on, things that you did, what are some of the things that have been most fun?
Yeah, earliest career, School of Rock. So we worked on
Fun
School of
brand.
Rock's advertising, and you remember this, I'm sure, where, um, they were experiencing, results that they wanted more out of the results essentially, and I think they had around 100 franchises at the time, and
Yeah.
I think they're at over 300. They're international. I mean, they're everywhere now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was optimizing over, I think it was 150 Google Ads campaigns, sending them to customized landing pages. So dynamic text. Nobody had really done this concept before through Unbounce. And so I
What
remember
does
our
that mean?
team, yeah, yeah, it was our team had figured out, if we have text that lines up with the keyword somebody's searching for, that's going to give somebody a higher likelihood of converting because they're hitting a page. I mean, now it's kind of like common sense that the page somebody lands on is customized to what the person's looking for. But at that
Yeah.
time, this was like a new concept.
Yeah.
And so, I think we tripled revenue from online for them. We reduced the cost per conversion by over 90%. I think it was over $100. It was down to $20. I mean, it was just unbelievable. So I think of that as the early career case study. And then I'd say the most recent one was for a premium protein brand that we have now, and we started with them from the very beginning. So from concept to where they're at now, and we took them from $0 to at a really legitimate business, so a seven-figure business now. But what really enabled us to do that was discovering why people were buying the product. So through the process, we had kind of hit a plateau, which is what you do when you're in a startup. And so we did some more market research, and we found out that their target customer was a lot older than what they had assumed they were. And so we all thought, even the client, we were like, okay, this is going to be maybe a millennial customer. Maybe the top end is 50. Now we realized that they are over 60 plus.
Yeah.
Limited income. This is a premium product they were buying every month because they wanted to enjoy their beef. And again, we tripled revenue. We decreased cost per conversion, so cost per purchase by over 50%. It's pretty unbelievable what you can do when you understand your customer.
Yeah.
But it's like the best case study I think we have of, when you're seeing kind of that plateau or the results aren't quite what you're expecting. Sometimes it's just a small tweak that's a pretty big tweak, and it's changing the messaging, it's changing what the look maybe of your site looks like by a little bit, it's changing some of the ads. But it's not a huge change for a big impact. And so, I truly believe that like everybody's like one tweak away from success a lot of the time. If your product is good, it's really about, are you
That matters.
marketing them correctly, to the right people. You understand them, and that's, again, why we do what we do. But I think that's the best example.
That's awesome. And you talked about like a school of rock, right, which is like music education, and then you've got this kind of premium meat brand as part of the processed proteins. What is Schaefer? Who do they work with, right? Like, so food and beverage is kind of the purpose of the podcast. Is that who Schaefer works with? How did we get here? That kind of thing.
Yes, yeah. So we are food and beverage specific firm. We got here through a lot of different industries to start with. I mean, that's kind of what you do when you start a company. You kind of try and figure out who it is that you want to work with. You and I are from tech, and me, some kind of random industries as well. But I still believe that the technical marketing, the marketing we did for tech, is what makes us even better marketers for food and beverage, because we think about things in a different way. Food and beverage notoriously has been kind of slow moving. The larger the company, the longer it takes to produce a product, the longer it takes to produce marketing campaigns. And when you work in tech, you're moving so quickly. You're making so many changes. You're trying to understand so many tests that that's why we've done what we've done and why we've been successful doing it. Now, why we chose food and beverage, first of all, you and I are big foodies, so we love it. But outside of that, we started to notice that Schaefer was becoming very heavily food and beverage. I think it was 90% of our customers, and the two of us looked at each other and said, we really love this. Why aren't we niching down? Why aren't we becoming more and more specific into food and beverage? And it's kind of one of those categories that it has the biggest need. From what we saw, there weren't a lot of very specific food and beverage marketing companies, which of course isn't what we do, but it just showed that there was a need in the industry, and there's a lack of research. There really isn't a lot of research right now that goes through, retailers as well as individual categories within food and beverage. So it was a need, and we really love the category, and that's kind of how we got here. And it, I think it took us like probably the first 3 years of those baby steps trying to figure out, what opportunities made the most sense for us. And when we got to that point of figuring out who we were, we really knuckled down into food and beverage. And so what we're trying to do is evolve in that category along with everybody else.
Yeah. And how long has Schaefer been around?
Oh, we've been around 6 years now, which is kind of unbelievable to think about that it's been that long. It's like, I always say businesses are like raising a child. I don't have kids, you do, but you go through every phase of love, hate, depression,
All of
success,
them.
all of the feelings. But yeah, we've been around a while now. And then you've been with us for almost 3 years now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. After I had finished my other work that we had worked on together, through the process, we had really good results, and Schaefer was a key part of that. We sold that business, and then Sidney and I kind of looked at each other and were like, "Well, that was really fun. Like, let's keep doing that again." And so, yeah, I joined Schaefer, and it's just been a ton of fun. So it's been good.
Why food and beverage for you? I know I'm going to interrupt you, but I think everybody'd be interested to hear too, what you really love about it.
I mean, first off, I absolutely love food. Like, I'm typically one of the people in my network that is like, "Hey, I'm stopping in this city. Do you know of a place I should try?" Or we've run out of good options for pick a food type, like what should I pick up? So I'm that person. I'm usually the person too that's always bringing like the weird stuff to like family dinners and all of those kind of things. Like, "Hey, I just tried this new thing. You've absolutely got to try this." So personally, that's just really interesting. But I think professionally, I've seen a couple things that stick out to me. One is food impacts everybody. So I love working in an industry that has the daily kind of passion that food and beverage has, because having worked in B2B technologies and like all these other spaces, and it's included retail and CPG work and things like that over the years as well. But having worked outside of food and beverage, I've worked in plenty of industries or with lots of clients over the years where it's just not been that interesting. Like, where my wife, Natalie, couldn't tell people what I did for work because it wasn't interesting enough to like dig in and have that conversation. And with food and beverage, it's just a part of our daily lives, and everyone has different motivations and reasons for why they buy what they buy and why they eat what they eat, and that's just fascinating, because in some ways, everyone is an industry everyone is a customer of the industry, and on the flip side, every customer is wildly different. So digging in for me has just been something that I've really enjoyed, and it adds a personal level to every client interaction and conversation that we have, because their customers deeply care about what they're eating and drinking. So
I think that's a good reason.
yeah, it's the reason. So hopefully.
It's true. I think my wife likes that we do this now because she can actually explain what we do, because it used to be, everybody's going to love this, right? They do those ads that follow you around on the internet. It's like, yes, we're the creepy people that.
Yeah.
So it's like, now, no, it just makes so much more sense.
Yes. Yeah. easier than just describing marketing generically, I
Yes.
think, which is what normally happens.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So who do we work with now, right? We just kind of talked about the fact that like we transitioned a couple years ago, probably 3 years ago, to food and beverage. And as we look at like today's customer, who does Schaefer work with? Like
Yeah.
what size of companies, what types?
I mean, I would say across the board. We work with mid-sized companies. We'll work with billion-dollar companies. We'll work with, you know, clients with one location, but they're looking to expand into multiple locations. We always talk about it's not really the kind of company, it's really like the trigger point of why somebody needs the work. So, it's somebody who could be just like a very well financed startup that is looking to go into a brand new market or launch a new product. Could be somebody that wants to expand existing products into new markets. Could be somebody who isn't happy with the performance of their product, or just their marketing in general, and they want us to take a second look. They want us to figure out again, is it the customer, is it the segments, what is it that is causing them to not hit the numbers that they want to be hitting. So I would say, and I don't know if you'd say any differently, that I don't know that the profile of the customer is the most important thing. It's really where they are in the business cycle and what they're looking for. I would say from the standpoint of the type of customers we work with, it's usually people who are looking for partners, who are looking less for a transactional type relationship, because from a cultural standpoint, we like to again view our clients as real partners and have those conversations that sometimes they're critical conversations that you're transparently saying, well, this maybe is not the right customer, and we need to go do these. We need to go to these segments, and it's not always the easiest conversation to have. So it's really important that we're working with the right people that are really just trying to get to their goals. It's not about proving anybody wrong. It's about getting people to success, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah,
you
and I would totally agree.
anything?
Yeah, I think to your point, the triggers are what really matter. Like we have customers on the manufacturing side of food service, CPG, lots I think in that space. But there are some of them are in retail, some are in direct to consumer, some are doing everything, and they're on TikTok Shop. Like you name it, we've got customers I think throughout food and beverage in every lens. But the thing that unifies them is that they're typically about to launch something, and they're like, I need to know who my ideal customers are and why they're going to make this decision, so I can make sure that my product positioning, the offer that's associated with it, and the messaging are correct as they show up in marketing and all these other things, trade promotions, everything else. And then in addition to that, I think it's people that have also just, to your point, just launched something. It's like, cool, I need this to grow more, faster, all the things. And usually it's very similar. I'm looking for confidence and direction in a partnership role because it's a pretty sensitive topic. It's highly strategic. They have to get it right as part of the process. And so oftentimes we're that partner that helps them see the big picture, or just helps confirm that some of the assumptions that they have are correct through data, and that some of the assumptions they had might not be, but here's what the data is telling them as part of the process. And so, yeah, a lot of really happy, good conversations, and sometimes some really hard ones, because we all make assumptions and have bias. And so when we show up to promote something, or we're excited by this new product we're going to come out with, or this new thing we're going to do, it's not uncommon then that we're bringing assumptions into that conversation, and we just need perspective.
Exactly.
So,
That's kind of the nice part about market research is it's that unbiased perspective, and if you're looking to make an argument either way, it just provides support, because again, it's not anybody's opinion.
Yeah, it's always supporting really the strategy. Like that's the core conversation is, what are you trying to accomplish? And then what's the best way to make that happen? And the data that will help you in the process to make the right business choices. Because sometimes people will show up and they want us to tell them what to do. Mm-hmm. And that's not the purpose of buyer psychology and the work we do. It's not like, here it is. Here's the only path that will work. Like, what is it like? The Avengers, like Endgame, like, we've analyzed 14 million options and this is the one path that will work. It's usually the fact that the data can support multiple paths. It really just depends on what they're trying to accomplish. There's a segment of the population or multiple segments that will support this product in these ways if your goal is X, Y, or Z. And so matching those things is the part that really matters. I want to ask you, so, buyer psychology is understanding the motivations, the insights, and like the behaviors of why people buy, and then helping find like the right customer segments as part of the process. So if like that's how you would kind of define buyer psychology, what is it like? What's an example, or what, as a marketing person, right, who has this deep experience, like, what do you do with it? Because I think that's part of the question that most people have all the time is like, cool, so I know like ideal customer segment. Now what? Like what? Why does that matter? What do you do once you get that information as a marketer? Like, you could be a brand marketer, you could be a dozen different things, but yeah.
I mean, I think traditionally, before we started doing this, you were looking for, like third-party research that was going to help establish a case for why you would, develop the audiences you would, bid on the keywords you would bid on, write the ad copy, the creative, all those things. And so you're making a lot of assumptions, which sometimes would pan out. Like, a lot of marketing was just common sense. I mean, it still is a lot of common sense, but sometimes you don't hit the target, and so you're throwing spaghetti at a wall to try and figure out, well, what is it? Is it this like slight nuance? Maybe it's like I'm just like five ages too high or something, and so you're like, I'm gonna just like again shrink it back down again. And so I think what this does for you is the fact that it's first party research, so you know exactly who the person is, not just audience like psychographics and demographics. It's why again are people buying? What is driving them? What is motivating them to do that? So, when you're looking at a segment, you're building a really enhanced customer profile. So when you go in and you map things out, because I always start with the segment and then I build out, what are the channels, what's the creative, what's the type of creative, are these people going to resonate more with video? Are they going to resonate more with images? If it's an older audience, I mean, think about the difference between, if you know that your audience is like the premium meat company, 65 plus, fixed income, probably use reading glasses. You're going to make your content as easy to read, probably narrative. You're not going to make it short. You have to make everything just as easy as possible because these people are not technically savvy. But if you were talking about people who were in their 30s, who were technically savvy, who loved bright colors, who were driven from a business standpoint, or driven in their careers, like, if you actually knew more about somebody, you can create some of the best marketing campaigns. It's like, well, what is the video narrative going to be? You would know if you knew exactly what was motivating somebody. And so I think what that allows you to do is be really scientific, where I think there's an art and a science to marketing, and the science was what was kind of missing. I think people may disagree with that because they'll be like, well, AI and all these things, and it's like, yes, but AI is doing a lot of those things for you. It's taking the person out of it, which is both good and bad, because AI in ads will either hit or it doesn't hit, because based on the information that you feed it. It's like Shopify audiences. Shopify Plus, here's an example. This is kind of like a very specific example, has if you're on Shopify Plus, has these audiences that it builds based on the customers you have. And it'll say, here's a prospecting audience of like-minded people. So it's kind of like lookalike audiences on Facebook. And so you're leaving it up to this tool to develop the right audience, which it can work and it might not work. But with this, it allows you those levers, because if someday when we cannot control what the ad channel does and we can only control what they land and what they see, then this becomes really important, I think. And it also saves you a lot of time and money, because you make less mistakes when you know exactly who the person is that you should be targeting. Or at least the group of people, I should say. Because again, like you said, there's not always one segment. Sometimes there's 4. And you're just choosing the first 2 that are the most likely to buy your product. And then you have these sub-segments, or, whatever you would say.
Yeah. Well, and I think from our experience too, we've seen that the AI like recommendation engine on targeting, the challenge that you have is that it's usually going after low-hanging fruit. So like it's showing this potentially across multiple segments. So now you've got messaging questions like, is this message in the ad, this narrative, the visual story, all of these things, is this actually the best message for who they're going to show this to? It's hard to know because there aren't these clearly defined motivations. And so there's always this feeling of like, you're showing it to the low-hanging fruit to get this initial response, because that's how the AI is rewarded. Yeah. It's like, engagement, conversion, whatever that metric is. And so as it's getting that, you might be missing out on a better segment that has more, bigger market size, more dollars, all the things, but it would require a little bit more work to get to in the beginning, and the algorithm's never going to optimize for it because of what it's going to take to get there. And so the algorithm has the ability, I think, to really limit your market size if you're not doing this work and you're just relying on them to go find your best customer as part of the process.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I would say about it is, I think you're absolutely right in terms of, the AI sometimes it can limit you. And so if that is the case, then you're relying on the actual creative to do the work for you. So instead of, because someday it might just be a general bucket, and you put in some characteristics, and it's going to choose exactly who to target, and that's the most you're going to be able to tweak. And so everything else will be, all this 5 sets of creative or whatever that, each one is built for a specific segment, and that's the only way you'll know which segment is the best. It's going to be based on the lump of creative that's been designed for that specific customer.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where we're going at this point.
I think we're not far off from it already, based on how Meta's ad platform is already modifying creative and doing a bunch of those things. And here's my question for you then. Do you think that's good for brands or bad for brands?
I think it depends on the brand. It's really great for people with not a lot of resources, because, you don't...
Yes.
This is hard to say as a marketer, but it doesn't require as much expertise as it used to, you know. And so some of the platforms are pretty automatic, and some of them still require a lot of effort. And you can still do things in a manual way in a lot of the platforms, which is great. But I think it's going to be great for people with limited resources. But for some people, it may actually make performance worse. Again, people may disagree with me on that, but I mean, I've seen some of it before where these automated campaigns do way worse than something that you can manually control. And so hopefully we get to a point where that isn't the case, because if that's what the new normal is going to be, hopefully it's improved. But it's frightening.
Yeah, I'm totally in line. I think for emerging brands, it's great. It's easy. It's easier than ever to get in and start making sales of some kind, but it's definitely not going to allow you to scale in most cases past a certain size, because at a certain point it requires a level of expertise that oftentimes then doesn't exist and creates some challenges. Yeah. So plus I try to always remember the platform has different goals than the brand's advertising on it.
It's very true. Yes.
So, yeah. So when we think about why we buy ads on platforms to market, there's a whole conversation around that as well.
100%. I'm going to
So, well, cool. Last question. Anything that comes top of mind as you think about why people buy or buyer psychology that you want to share before we wrap it up?
Oh, that's a very loaded question.
Just one thing.
I know. I'm like, one thing. Okay, I would say that I think that that why people buy is this umbrella term that we talk about, right? We talk about it as, the buyer psychology, getting in the mind of the customer. But I think the why people buy, because it could be a question, it could be a statement. I think overall, it's more than anything. I think it's more than anything a statement because I think we have to understand the customer in the best way that we possibly can, whether you are mature or an emerging brand, and that's what's going to get you to the best scale possible. And so, I mean, I just feel like this is something that's missing from the industry and across many industries that, we all talk about, we just don't say it specifically. And so, hopefully, what we're able to provide people and some of the insights and stuff, give people a leg up on competition and help them reach their goals. So, I mean, I think that's really the goal of all of this is to help people understand the customer better and, again, be successful.
Yeah.
So,
Put those really cool snack items in the grocery store so we can get them.
exactly. Those impulse purchases.
Exactly. So, well, awesome. Thank you for joining us, Sidnee. And if you want to learn more about Sidnee, you can check her out on LinkedIn, Sidnee Schaefer. Or if you want to learn more about Schaefer, you can go to schaefer.co. That's schaefer.co. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.